Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mok-yeon. Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party has just secured a sweeping supermajority under Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi in a recent snap election. With her political future on the line, Takaichi turned the race into a personal referendum and came out stronger than ever. Now backed by U.S. President Donald Trump and with a White House summit already on the calendar, Tokyo's foreign and domestic trajectory may be shifting in bold new ways. But what does this mean for South Korea, for the U.S. Japan alliance, and how are China and Russia responding? On Within the Frame tonight, we'll break down what this election reveals, what it triggers, and where the region is headed next. For this, we're joined by Bong Young-sik, Research Fellow at the Yonsei University Institute for North Korean Studies. A big welcome, Dr. Bong.
Pleased to be here.
And also joining us is Kim Mok-yeon, Senior Researcher at the Korea Social Sciences Research Institute at Gyeongsang National University. Good to see you.
Thank you very much for having me.
So let's first start a discussion with Dr. Bong with the outcome of the election itself. So despite initial public backlash over the election, Prime Minister Takaichi led the LDP to a landslide victory. What do you think were the key factors that helped secure such overwhelming support?
Well, it's an overwhelming victory, and a landslide victory may not be, cutting it correctly, because this is the first time in post-war history of Japan since 1945 that one single party secures two-thirds absolute majority in the lower house. The landslide victories in the history of the lower house elections in Japan's political history would include a 1986 victory by LDP, Liberal Democratic Party, led by Prime Minister Nakasone, in which the Liberal Democratic Party won 304 seats out of 512 seats. And the Democratic Party's victory in 2009, securing 309 seats. And the victory by Abe Shinzo's Liberal Democratic Party in 2012, in which the Liberal Democratic Party won 294 seats. But this time, the Liberal Democratic Party, led by Prime Minister Takaichi, won the absolute two-thirds majority. Beyond that, more than 310 seats, securing 316 seats. So LDP alone can actually pass the bill for constitutional revision of Japan if it wants to, without asking for help from other parties.
Right, is indeed a very meaningful number we're seeing. Now, when it comes to the broader political meaning behind the results of this latest election, Dr. Kim, would you say that this election marks a turning point in Japan's domestic politics, possibly signaling a generational shift towards a more assertive, conservative leadership?
Yes, I totally agree with you. The last election is a turning point in domestic Japanese politics in many aspects. I mean, histories were made. For one, Japan has the first female prime minister, and the election campaign period of 16 days was the shortest. And another history that was made was the highest number of seats Liberal Democratic Party garnered in its 70-year history, as Dr. Bong eloquently pointed out. And more than anything else, as you have said, the younger generation's support for Liberal Democratic Party is very, very notable. It seems like there is an inverse association between age cohorts and support for LDP. What does that mean? It means the younger a voter is, the more likely for him or her to vote for LDP. I mean, until now, we have this kind of a preconception that LDP is old boys network and it is very, very conservative and it fails to entice younger generations' political interests. And that some people used to argue that that explained increasing and high political apathy among the younger generation, but it's no longer the case. what the results of the last election show is that the voters in their 20s, 30s, and 40s cast their votes for LDP over 80%, 80, while about 60% of those voters in their 60s and 70s and higher voted for LDP. So there is, that means a remarkable shift from younger generations' political apathy to their very, very active participation in voting process. So that is indeed a very interesting turning point.
Right, it's very interesting indeed. Now, as our Dr. Bong has slightly mentioned in the beginning of our show, this latest landslide win, it gave LDP a supermajority in the lower house. So, Dr. Kim, do you think it's likely now that Prime Minister Takaichi will move forward with a constitutional revision, especially on the issue of, formally recognizing Japan's self-defense forces?
With that two-thirds supermajority, Madam Prime Minister Takaichi can do anything she wants. I mean, put it in very plain language. She can exercise, and she has strongest mandate, which allows her to push forward with the key policy agendas that she promised during the election campaign process. For example, she can appoint every chairperson of all the committees at Diet, and that grants her incredible amount of power and authority. And as you have pointed out, and also Dr. Bong nicely summarized, she can proceed with constitutional amendment with two-thirds majority. The current Japanese Constitution, Article 59, Clause 2, in particular, to be specific, allows the lower house members to recast their votes even when an agenda did not get cleared at the upper house for failing to garner two-thirds of the votes. So this means with that majority, Prime Minister Takaichi, I believe, will push forward for the constitutional amendment. And I think that's the reason why she mentioned about that possibility during the press conference to declare her victory. And what does that mean specifically? It means Japan can revise Article 9, which makes Japanese constitution as pacifist. And when Article 9, which forbids to Japan to engage in belligerent act as a sovereign nation, Japan will become a so-called normal country, which can declare war. And how will that get translated into reality? That means the current self-defense force will be elevated to regular army, to something like self-defense army. And at the same time, a constitutional amendment will allow Japan to drop the principle, very important pacifist principle of three non-nuclear principles: not making, no usage, and no introduction of nuclear arms into its territory. So Japan will be able to not only declare war, but also it will be able to participate other words in order to assist the allies. And one of the important implications of this change is that the countries which were victimized by Japan's imperial army might have some reservations about that particular move. So while pushing forward with this constitutional amendment agenda, Japan, as well as the U.S., would need to engage in very active persuasion campaigns in order to calm the former colonies of Japanese imperialism.
So you're
Okay,
saying,
let me cut in, and I have tremendous respect for Professor Kim. We engage in a lot of research collaborations, but I'd like to make a different point, and I'd like to ask Arirang TV for this program within the frame 1 year later from today to invite both of us, because there will be a good time to contrast our perspectives on this issue, whether Takaichi administration is going to pursue constitutional revision. Because I believe being able to push the card of constitutional revision does not necessarily mean that she is definitely going to do that. I don't think constitutional revision is the top priority for the Takaichi administration, considering that she emphasized her desire to revive national economy of Japan as a top priority. Yes, she is now given tremendous political capital, but I don't think she's going to use the political capital first and foremost for constitutional revision, because it's going to alienate the young voters who cast their ballots to Takaichi, because they accepted the election platform by the LDP that Takaichi leadership is going to prioritize revival of Japanese national economy above all. So it's going to defeat the mandate given by the Japanese voters. And I think Madam Prime Minister is prudent and wise enough to know this trade-off. She's going to continue to talk about the possible consideration of revising the post-war constitution of Japan as a political card to pander to some conservative members in the LDP and other political parties. But I think she's going to stop right there because that is not really top priority. That should be for the Prime Minister. So please invite us back 1 year later and see whose opinion turned out to be correct.
right, so,
Dr. Bong, I'll be more than happy to be on the same program with you in order to discuss this particular issue.
right,
Because
definitely.
because of Takaichi's personal character and her popularity, LDP won 316 seats, the biggest victory in the post-war history of Japan's politics. So, paradoxically speaking, she doesn't owe any debt to any conservative parties or any conservative members within her party. So she's on her own, so she doesn't have to pander to the right wing's voice in favor of revising the Constitution.
Right. So at this point, of course, we are all just speculating for what's going to happen in the future. But of course, it's really great to hear different kinds of opinions for different scenarios. And we'll make sure to invite both of you in the year's end. But going back to our discussion about the impact of the latest results of the election, it's also going to deal a big blow to relations with Washington, of course, and publicly. Takaichi, she thanked President Trump and announced plans for summits with the White House as well. So, Dr. Bong, do you see the Takaichi-Trump dynamic shaping the next phase of U.S. Japan cooperation?
Well, President Trump does not hide it that he so welcomed the election result, that he mentioned that he so eagerly looked forward to working with Takaichi, the Minister of Japan. And I think United States would want to see the Japanese government expand its contribution and participation in the Indo-Pacific strategy led by the United States to deal with the rising military posture of China in the region. So Japan is able to increase its contribution and participation to the U.S. Japan Military Security Alliance without actually revising the peace constitution in the name of exercise of Japan's right to collective self-defense since the days of the former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. So I don't think the Takaichi administration has to pursue constitutional revision to justify and facilitate its increased participation and support for the United States with its military assistance and cooperation. It can just do it by increasing its defense spending more than 2% to its GDP and expanding the purview of the strategic coordination with the United States in the region. So that's something that the United States is looking forward to gain from Japan after the lower house election result came out.
Just in a matter of days, on February 22nd, Japan's so-called Takeshima Day, the annual event, which is tied to Japan's territorial claims over Dokdo, which has long been a source of tension between Seoul and Tokyo. Dr. Bong, if the Takaichi government sends a cabinet-level official at this year's event, what kind of message would that mean to Seoul?
It'll be a devastating blow to the mutual effort forged by South Korean President Lee Jae-myung and the Prime Minister of Japan, Takaichi, to resuscitate and move forward the bilateral partnership between Seoul and Tokyo. And Takaichi government of Japan will be held solely responsible for the breakdown. So it'll be a very important, turning point to gauge the temperature of bilateral partnership between the two allies of the United States. Yes, Madam Takaichi promised that once she would become the president of the Liberal Democratic Party, then she would send one of the cabinet members to attend the ceremony for the so-called Takeshima Day, 22nd of February. But that position was held before she became the Prime Minister of Japan, not just the president of the conservative LDP. And as I pointed out in my early statement, thanks to this landslide victory with 316 seats, which was only made possible thanks to personal charisma of Madam Takaichi. But now Prime Minister Takaichi does not have to listen to the voice of ultra-conservative members within the coalition, let alone very conservative and nationalist members within her own party. So she can afford to have kind of a political and strategic flexibility in terms of celebrating the Takeshima Day next week. So she has ample autonomy and political freedom to, sidestep previous remark made by her. But if she's going to make a hardline attitude decision about this thorny issue between South Korea and Japan, then she cannot count on continuous support from Lee Jae-myung, governor of South Korea, in terms of dealing jointly with a lot of important security threats, including China's bullying behavior toward Japan after her controversial remark about Japan participating in the military emergency situation in Taiwan Strait. So if she is going to keep her promise on the Takeshima Day, siding with conservatives, then she's going to lose support from South Korea, and Japan, under her leadership, has to face the bullying behavior of China alone.
So come February 22nd, we will be able to see how the direction of bilateral relations will move forward in the rest of the term. We'll have to wrap up our discussion tonight here. Thank you so much for your insights, Dr. Bong.
Thank you.
And Dr. Kim, we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Till then, stay informed and engaged.